Preseason is over, Josue. Celtics tried really hard to make it not end.
Another overtime game.
Joey Mazzulla playing for the win, putting the starters back in, minus Tatum, which we'll get to. Minus Tatum went for the win. Marcus almost tore his groin in two. And Celtics end up falling to the Raptors. Both of their preseason lost to Toronto, 137-134. Lots to unpack from this game. I think most of it good. It is interesting. I mean, there's definitely some things, and I know you've got the box score up in front of you that are, a little worrisome. But it's the preseason. You're just kind of getting stuff out. I think the Tatum ejection is the headline of this game. But if I start talking about it now, it'll be the only thing I talk about. And then that's just what we'll end up doing. And then everyone's just going to be mad the whole time. And everyone's just going to yell at me. And so be it.
But yeah, that happened a lot last year, John. This is this would be getting
but it's preseason for me too. I'm not taking this seriously either, so I don't want to be yelled at right now.
Right. But you know what though? This makes sense though. This makes sense because you don't want to. You're not taking these games seriously, but you're looking in between the lines here. And of course, that this Tatum ejection in an overtime loss, it's your headline. I get it.
Well, I mean, all right, I'm going to jump to it, and then we'll get back to it because I think that is the headline. There's a couple problems. I think people are missing the point of the Tatum ejection, and that's what's bothering me a little bit, Josue. I don't think anybody is going to dispute the fact that it was pretty questionable ejection. Pretty questionable second tech to give to a star. Certainly and people are saying, dude, it's the preseason. Why would you do that here? Look, if it were the regular season, he got tossed in a close game against a conference rival or the playoffs for something that small, you'd be like, are you kidding me with the refs? This is not about the refs, people, okay? This is about a pattern of behavior that's existed forever with Tatum that he can't shake. And it carried through the playoffs. It was a thing that Ime Udoka talked about addressing at the beginning of last season. He couldn't rein it in. Joe Mazzulla is not going to be able to rein it in. It just is what it is. So I know people are like, you have to look at it, but the story's not there was a garbage tech. Tatum basically got 3 techs because after he got the second one, he sat on the floor the whole time, and they gave him a third one, but he technically didn't exist anymore because he was tossed out, so they called it a team technical. But he's basically got 3 technical fouls in a freaking preseason game just because he was being a baby. Just stop. Don't do that. The people who are mad at Tatum, who are mad that Tatum doesn't get the superstar calls he deserves for a first-team All-NBA guy, that's why. The refs hate him. They hate him. Yeah. So that's that arm wave after you've been just doing it after every trip down the floor. They just don't have any tolerance for it. He's put himself in a bad spot vis-a-vis the refs because you want him to get superstar calls. You want him to get that treatment. He's just not getting it. I don't know if he's going to get it unless something snaps and he changes, and I just don't get it. I don't know if you feel the same way, but my reaction is, yeah, it was a garbage ejection, but come on, man. Just quit it already.
It was less about the play. It was more about the reaction. And I'm with you because
it was a really minor reaction.
But that's his go-to.
It's constant.
That's his go-to. Right, exactly. I think it's common, and I think this type of pattern, it resonates with the officials. I mean, they know this about him already. I think it's a reputation thing. I'm with you on this, John. I'm not as mad as you are at Tatum because this is when you're supposed to get this stuff out of your habits, right, throughout the preseason, or at least try to, or at least say, okay, that's a teaching moment right there. That's a lesson that needs to carry over into the regular season, and I need to make sure that I don't put myself in these situations. I just hope that Jayson Tatum is able to take these things seriously, right? I hope he's thinking about that from a realistic standpoint going into the regular season, that if this were to happen, that would be a problem, And like you said, Ime Udoka not having him in the picture, it doesn't help. It really doesn't, because that's the one guy that would hold him accountable and also put him on blast, after the game. And look, that's not to say if Joe Mazzulla does that's going to help, because he's the new guy right now. He's in a new spot, so he's got to tread lightly with this thing. And Tatum knows better. He he should really know better right now. We have to he's got to be more accountable for these kind of things, because this isn't the second, third, or fourth year. He's been through this.
Yeah, and the fact that it's preseason actually makes it all the more embarrassing. What are you throwing tantrums for in games that don't matter? Even minor ones. That stuff should roll off you. You don't need to fight for calls.
It's a superstar flex, I call it. That's what it is.
Sure, that's fine. And
yeah.
There's people in the chat, Josue, who are like, well, there shouldn't be any bias in refereeing. There shouldn't, but there is. And that's the reality of it. And what I don't understand is,
because they're human beings, John, right? Like, yeah, of course they're going to be a little biased if you keep doing that throughout the course of the game, and they know that you're that guy to react that way, throughout.
Everyone responds to that kind of stuff. Everyone. You're right. It's human nature. Like, if you just keep getting beat on over and over again, you're like, oh, man, I'm not giving this guy the benefit of the doubt on any of this stuff. So you lose a lot of those 50-50s. And yeah, it's wrong. That's not how refs are supposed to react. But we know that's what they do. We know superstars get calls. We know Jayson Tatum doesn't get a lot of them when he goes to the basket. He's constantly frustrated by it. It's the chicken or the egg thing. He's frustrated because he's not getting the calls. He might not be getting the calls because he's showing his frustration, showing up the refs left and right. I don't think that's that ridiculous to say. What I don't get.
You know why it's disappointing though? You know why? Like from a CLNS Garden Report standpoint, because first we'll get into it later, I'm sure, but first the text messages and then something you're talking about with Derek White right before he goes off, like the best preseason performance of his life, right? And then second, you go on this. I think it was literally the tweet was like minutes before Tatum hit that first 3-pointer. When you're like, oh great, he's 2 for 18 throughout these first 3 preseason games, and then boom, 1 3, and then boom, another. He starts heating up. He starts heating up in the second half. Going into the fourth quarter, and then he gets himself ejected. It's like, man, like this is the sort of 180 that we've seen from Tatum before, where he can go ice cold. He can go, historically bad from the floor, and then just turn it around like that. And he just started doing that before he got ejected.
He did. He hit a couple, but overall he finished 3 for 10. And I'll pull up the numbers. The other side of the Jayson Tatum thing. And again,
that wouldn't have been the case. He wouldn't have shot 30%, John. He would have made at least 2 or 3 more if he stayed in it, man.
Who knows? And it's possible, but it was a pretty crappy preseason for him, all total. But that's the thing is you'll excuse the shooting, but you want to see a little bit more of it. With this other stuff, again, like I said, it's almost like, if like you were conducting like experiments on humans and they're like in a controlled environment, and like every time you touched one doorknob, it would shock you. And so, by now Tatum should know not to shock that doorknob, like not to touch that doorknob. Like,
has he though, John?
But he hasn't. That's what's amazing is like it's simply a matter of cause. If you behave a certain way, this happens. If you don't, the other thing happens. Just stop touching the shock buzzer, because every time you do that, every time you bitch with the refs, it goes worse for you. So stop.
Yeah, but for me, I look at it like this. It's more like the kid who was told not to play with the stove, but he only got burnt a little bit. Like he didn't get the full burn. Like we haven't seen him completely, cost the Celtics a huge loss. So not yet, at least.
Right.
Not yet.
Well, today he did. I mean, the run they went on. I mean, it's a preseason game.
Counts, I guess,
yeah, of course. And it doesn't count, and it doesn't matter. And yeah, sure, all things total, you want to get tossed out of a game, get tossed out of a preseason game. But it is just infuriating at this point. And I tweeted that as like, you're right. He hasn't done one that's cost them a game yet. But this is what I tweeted. I'm glad this happened to him, because I hope he's a little embarrassed by it, because I hope it's like a little shock to my system. Like you go home and you're like, what am I doing, man? Like, what am I complaining about these for? It's the preseason. Like, come on, like, right. If he comes out of it thinking like the refs have it out for me, that's the wrong message. Like he didn't learn anything. If he comes out of it saying like, I just embarrassed myself. We're playing a game. We're playing fine. I know it's the preseason, but like, I gotta put that stuff in my pocket and move on. That would be good. Get it out of your system, enter the regular season, a new and mature guy, and be like, I'm just not doing that anymore.
Let's look ahead, and let's say if it gets worse, right, and someone has to call him out, is it one of his teammates? Is it Jalen? Is it Marcus? Because it could reach that point again. Speaking in hypothetical situation where he cost the Celtics a big game, or any game for that matter, right? and it comes to someone trying to hold him accountable. You think that happens on this team? It'll be
No,
interesting.
but what's funny is like you'd think like Grant would be that guy because they have a relationship and he's one of the vocal guys. But Grant goes in there and he starts defending him, and
Yeah, he's not gonna do that.
he gets
Maybe behind
attacked.
closed doors, but Grant's not gonna get in front of cameras and do that. No,
No
it's got to
way.
be someone like Marcus or maybe even Jalen. But we'll see.
Yeah, I don't get it. I
If it
really don't
happens.
get it. So you know, I'm curious in the post game, and I just teasing ahead. Bobby Manning is in Montreal. He can't stay away.
Hey, Bobby,
He had
getting those the passport stamp. There you go. Canada.
Bobby Canada couldn't resist a trip up there, so he's up there covering the game for CLNS Media in the post game scrums right now. He'll jump on the show in a little bit. We'll see if Tatum talks, and you know what his overall reaction is here. But you know we'll see what happens there. The other thing to talk about is you know on the Tatum front is he's not he's hasn't been great shooting wise again, which is another bummer. And again, it's only preseason, but if you're going to talk about the good, and there's plenty of it, because we've been sitting here talking about how Jaylen Brown looks like he's ready to lead the league in scoring. We've talked about Sam Hauser. We've talked about the Malcolm Brogdon effect. So you talk about the positive things that you see in the preseason. We're going to talk about Derek White tonight. He played probably his best offensive game as a member of the Celtics. You got to talk about what's not working. You'd love to see Tatum knocking down those shots early to think that last year was a total fluke, right?
Yeah, I mean for sure. But
Yeah, I'm not going to freak over it, but wouldn't you feel a lot better if he just looked lights out? You know, like it'd be like, oh, thank God that shooting stuff is gone.
Yeah, you would, but I think what was encouraging about was his approach. I feel like he was attacking. I feel like he was, trying to be. It was sort of like NBA Finals Tatum, right? The most of that series where he just couldn't find his offense, but he was trying to do the other things. But it seemed like he was going to turn things around, I guess, before the ejection, like I said. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how he handles those situations because he's going to have nights like that. I mean, that just tends to happen, and you hope that doesn't happen regularly throughout the course of the regular season. But with these reinforcements, guys like Malcolm Brogdon in the picture now, Sam Hauser, if he can keep this up, I mean, maybe not to this extent, but if he can be someone that the Celtics can rely on for buckets, that's going to help. You look at that first quarter when Jalen and Tatum were just finding guys like, in the corner, Derek White, Grant Williams got some, guys were just, they had all the time in the world to take those shots. And Jayson and Jalen, I feel like are really, they're really dialed in that regard of making sure that they're getting guys involved and making it, clear that they don't have to put the team on their back every single time. I mean, again, this is preseason, but you can see their mindset is sort of shifted to those old days of, I don't know, even last year's preseason where it was like, okay, I got to take over now, or that first couple of months of the regular season.
Yep, no doubt. What and again,
but if those shots aren't falling though, that's the only thing. But
it's just the open, like Jalen. Every time he gets an open look, you're 100% certain it's going to go down. Tatum's getting open looks, and they're not going down again. And I'm just getting that weird PTSD from last year. Does it mean it carries over? No. I just feel a lot better if it was going down. That's all.
Yeah, that's true.
The open ones. Oh, you're always looking for growth, development, going to the basket, playing more aggressive, playing with your head up, cutting down the turnovers, XYZ. Those are all things you can control, and like that's an approach thing. And the shot, sometimes it falls, sometimes it doesn't. I'd feel just a little better if it was falling. What happened to Brogdon? He didn't play in the second half.
They said it wasn't serious, but
cautionary. I don't like that.
Yeah, I mean, the Celtics released what happened, but of course they didn't get into details. And I think it was Adam Himmelsbach who said he spoke to someone who says that if this was a regular season game, that he would be out there. So it's more of a precautionary thing. I want to hear more about it. I'm sure Joe Mazzulla is going to talk about it. I'm sure Bob will have an update for us, but hopefully it's nothing too serious because, I mean, that's something that it's on the back of everyone's minds or most Celtics fans' minds because it's just history. It's his pattern. It's who he's been the last, 3 to 4 years. So.
Yeah. Positive takeaways.
I agree with that. Keep them on ice as much as you can.
That's fine. Yeah. I mean, positive takeaways for sure. You have to look at the overall offense and you have to look at the pace. It's two things that we've noticed from the first game all the way through.
Yeah.
They're playing with a lot more pace. They're getting open shots. It's interesting. They are getting beat up on the glass a little bit, and their defensive presence obviously isn't the same without Rob. Yeah. But there's that sacrifice. The offense is really humming with that kind of 3-guard lineup.
Well,
And
that's what
obviously
I
Derek
want.
White hitting every friggin' three tonight helped.
Exactly. See, that's what I wanted to make sure we talk about, because that's not, look, even throughout the good times of last season, the Celtics did have nights like that where they were scoring, 22, 23 three-pointers. And
This is the Draymond Green night. This is Draymond Green when he called him out. And
exactly right.
he's
Game
like,
one, exactly. Game one vibes for sure. Like,
Game one
because
vibes.
if you watch this team throughout the course of last season, all throughout, that's just not who they are. So when the shots aren't falling, when guys are rebounding, I mean, you're gonna miss Rob. You're gonna miss, that presence on both ends of the floor, whether it's cleaning the glass or just playing defense in general. Man, look, I don't understand why people. We can get into it later, but like, people so shocked about the whole KG not putting the Celtics in the top four. I'm like, not everyone's feeling this team right now because, again, they don't know what this team's gonna look like without Rob. They don't know how the defense is gonna stand when Rob may not play a game until 2023. That's a handful of games, and Celtics fans should know better than any. They can fall behind quickly. Of course, they turned things around in a historic fashion last year, but that's not always going to be the case. Rob is a big part of that for sure.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. There's no doubt. And we're gonna get into that. Monday we'll have a season preview. Tuesday
Yeah.
is
See, I figured
obviously
we save it for right, but
no. Tuesday's the opener, but I mean,
But look, well, what I really wanted to say was also, if the shots aren't falling and you're not cleaning the glass like that, I mean, Toronto would have been up by 15, 20 points. I mean, that's how good this team can be when they're playing defense the way they did and the way they came out. But the Celtics, of course, they caught fire. I mean, look, Derek White got targeted like 6 consecutive possessions. Like, it was a mismatch. Toronto's taking them down low. You don't think a lot of teams are going to do that when you're
that
happened
in the playoffs too. Like Mr. All
Exactly.
Mr. All Defensive was
lineup.
getting cooked.
Exactly. You're gonna get targeted,
and on back-to-back possessions, Barnes did it on one, and then Van Fleet followed with another. So it's the taller guy, the shorter guy, and they were drawn to him, and he just got beat.
He did. And if he didn't go lights out from behind the arc, I mean, it would have been a different situation. I mean, I'm sure he would have been pulled out, way before the start of the second quarter. But that wasn't the case. Like, look, again, when the shots are falling, this team is they're gonna be difficult to beat because everyone is so committed on the defensive end. But down low, I mean, when you're playing teams like this who are just big guys, 1 through 5, very tall, defensive-minded guys, tactical guys who you're gonna have to shoot lights out sometimes to try to beat them. And look, they still lost. They lost by 3 points in overtime.
Yeah,
preseason and all.
Again, we're wrapping up the post-game presser just a little bit. Hold on one here. Yep. But again, we talk about the good, we talk about the bad.
Right.
Derek White confidently taking and knocking. What was so interesting about Derek White is last year, the ball swung to him. He would confidently step up, take the shot. It was the right shot to take. None of these threes were forced, and none of them went in. And so you can't quite figure out what the hell's going on because it looks normal. He's taking it. The stroke looks the same every single time. He looks confident, and nothing went in. But Bobby, I think, was watching him, during practices and during, warm-ups and stuff like that. He thinks his release is a little bit different. Everybody always talks about, I went in the lab and I worked on XYZ. I am curious.
He talks about it, though. Yeah, that's why. Right.
I'm curious if this is real or not, because that would be, I mean,
it's
that's
real,
the whole thing.
John, he looked at me in my eyes and said it, man. I believe. I asked that question,
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
But no, it's true. Derek White, and again, going back to last year, the Derek White that he got for all his other contributions was borderline unplayable at times because the offense was so bad. That's a fact. We get it. He does a lot of other things well, but he was playing himself off the court because he was so bad on offense. The team just couldn't sustain having him out there, particularly with the amount of Rob minutes that you had and this and that. You just can't have multiple offensive liabilities on the court at the same time. And that's kind of the trade-off when you have, that double big lineup, or a lineup is so dependent on that. You're playing those guys together all the time. If you're throwing White in the mix with Al and Rob, man, you've really got a problem spacing the floor and getting off shots. So White has to be able to knock those down. He has to be able to knock down open looks, particularly when they're playing in that small ball lineup and the ball's zipping around there. And there's a lot of people who can create and distribute and draw attention from the defenses. He's going to have those all day long. Everyone's going to give him that shot, and he's got to knock down. If he knocks that down at even 35, 36, 37%, that's a totally different player.
Absolutely, because that wasn't who he was last year. And I think that's something that people tend to forget because they're looking at his career numbers or what he did a couple of years ago. But what he shot 30, 32, 33%. So it was, you want him to sort of flirt with that somewhere anywhere close to 40% from behind the arc. And if he's not out there doing that, I mean, it's really hard for him to sort of fit in, right? I mean, we talked about what he does defensively and how teams will start sort of targeting when you're having that 3-guard lineup and you're undersized like that. But also, going into training camp, I'm thinking this would be most beneficial to him, right? Because you think about the Brogdon signing or the trade rather, and you think about the pressure sort of not on him as much as it was a year ago, but at the same time, if you're with Derek White, you have to wonder, am I expendable? If I can't get this thing going, I mean, or Peyton Pritchard could sort of be that guy to knock down 3-point shots, he sort of is expendable, right? And I know that we talked about that before in the past, and when you think about the first round pick and what the Celtics gave up to get him, you want to see this Celtics make this work because I mean that was assets that it took to bring this guy in, and it just seemed like the right move. It seemed like he'd be a perfect fit. And I'm not saying that he's not. He looks good right now. He looks great. So, and with everything he had going on between having a baby and moving to Boston and going and trying to mesh with this team, I give him credit for that. I mean, that's not always easy, but going through a whole training camp with this team, feeling like you fit in, or at least from what it looks like throughout these outings, and this one being your best one so far, you hope it carries over into the regular season.
Yeah, we are going to take a quick pause, and we're going to talk about one of our sponsors here as soon as I can find it. We're going to talk about Athletic Greens. Guys, I got to tell you, I'm very happy. There's been a lot of positive feedback here on Athletic Greens. So if anybody here has purchased it, has anything to say about it in the chat, please share your feedback. But I will say it's been very evident just from people DMing me, showing me that their orders, T-shirts that we're sending out,
they want them shirts.
Yeah, they want them shirts. But I think people are actually kind of digging this product. So tell you about it again. It's our partner here, Athletic Greens, something that we all take. Why did I take it? And people on the Garden Report, we wanted better gut health, energy, optimized immune system, don't want to take a zillion pills and vitamins and all that stuff. So this is it. One-stop shopping, one scoop, AG1, 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, all that. Boom, to start your day right. It's diet-friendly.
It's a year supply. The best part is that it's a year supply. Like, this is such a good deal. Like, you don't have to worry about it for a whole year, and you're taking care of your health. I mean, at that point, it's on you. I'll give you that. Like, getting into the habit of doing it daily, I mean, that's completely on you. But to know that you're getting a year supply, like that's just a great value there.
It's really good value. It ends up being about $3 a day, which again, you're probably spending on a bunch of other things if you're tying it all together, and you are, picking and choosing your stuff. A zillion 5-star reviews, pro athletes, health experts, celebrities endorse it. It's an all-in-one nutritional, supplement you can take. One scoop in a cup of water every day. It's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, we at the Garden Report are going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. But you have to go to athleticgreens.com/garden. And if you do that, we will send you one of these as well, a Garden Report phenomenal T-shirt. All you have to do is DM me and my Twitter handle with your shirt size, your address, and a receipt, and we will absolutely send that to you right away. So once again, athleticgreens.com/garden is the place to go. We will welcome in this guy, Bobby Manning.
What's timing?
What's going on?
Some Raptors fans in the comment section right now.
They love it. They're always in here. They're waiting for Bobby Canada to show up. Bobby, who talked post game?
We did not get Tatum. We got Grant and Smart.
Okay, so I am sure their takeaway is that the refs overreacted, right?
Yeah, Smart said he had never seen anything like that. Grant kind of gave me the blow-by-blow of it. Tatum got the tech for slamming the ball. Grant told the ref after that, ref's a game, not your emotions. So he got a tech. And then
what a dumb shit.
That's a great line.
You don't say that to a ref.
And then what was the other? Oh, the other one was the delay of game because Tatum was just standing on the court.
You got 3 technicals, Bobby.
The triple technical plus
The
two. It was a
triple technical
5-point
is
play.
hard to pull off.
I had
Not
never
for
heard of a
nothing. Grant can
5-point play.
every once in a while. Grant can play the goon role. He can be a goon, you know. He can get those one-liners.
And Joe didn't have much to say to it. I asked Joe if he was concerned about it, and he said he wasn't. This was obviously a theme last year, right? The complaining, Tatum, Grant specifically, technical fouls, getting out of games emotionally, not getting back on defense in those circumstances where they were complaining. So this is Joe's first challenge, and you kind of saw it along the sideline. We were sitting pretty close to the bench. He didn't interact much with the refs, didn't interact much with the players through those sequences. There was a lot of complaining from the bench as well during this game, and no one really to rein things in. The only time I saw someone rein things in was White pushing Grant away from an official later after that sequence. So Grant was ready to complain some more after the triple.
Wasn't that amazing? That's what struck me is and Josue was asking earlier, who's the guy to pull him away there? And that was a baffling sequence because while Tatum got his tech and he won't leave the court and he's sitting there still unable to accept his fate and the consequences of his actions, justified or not, nobody thinks that like the ref was in the right and that Tatum did something over the top, but he pissed the ref off because that's what he does. And he teed him up. That can happen. There's no like hard and fast rule for a tee. You disrespect a ref, you show him up, you wave at him, you bitch about something. He can tee you up anytime. That's how it works. So you're playing with fire every time you do that. Every time you go at these guys, they're within their rights to hit you with one. Everyone will say like, oh, these drunk with power refs, whatever. But what bothers me a little was, Grant's going in and instead of slowing it down, he's getting another tee and Missoula's just standing there like right in a line with those guys and just kind of watching. And so that was a good learning moment for Joe, but he was just standing there. And at some point you'd want to see him get mad and be like, get off the freaking court. You know, but he didn't.
That stuff happens quickly though, John. He's not, this is a good teaching moment for him because he's not, I bet you he's like, whoa, that escalated quickly. And that's what happens. And head coaches sort of have to make that judgment call right away, whether it's, I'm gonna get in the referee's face and defend my player, or am I gonna be like, hey, that's it. This conversation's over. I gotta pull my guy away and separate them. Guys, we're done here. Let's focus. That's a thin line, so.
Yeah, but he's got to get in there and he's got to get on.
Sure.
Come on, man. But you're right. It's a tough spot for him because he doesn't want to look like he's siding with the refs and getting on Tatum, and he wants to get his guys back.
Matchup. Right.
You
don't want to be the headline of this game,
if you're Missoula there, what you should have done is gone right at the ref and friggin' gotten yourself thrown out too, That's like the baseball manager thing,
Well, I'll tell you.
You throw yourself on the...
Yeah, you didn't want to go back to this locker room here tonight. It made the TD Garden visitors locker room look luxurious. I don't even know where Tatum hung out in there. There's just kind of some benches along the side, some little like hooks to hang up the jerseys. It was not a place to hang out. I'm interested in what Tatum did back there for the quarter he was out or whatever it was. But yeah, this was a big lesson for Missoula tonight. Felt like he pushed his regulars a little too far here. He came in with a plan to condition them, and I felt like flow of game. They hit a point where they probably should have just pulled the plug on some guys. Smart took a spill on the wet floor. That was something.
Horford comes back in with 8 minutes left. Smart comes back in with 6.
Brown came in with 5.
Then Brown comes in with 5. Smart hits the deck there on a spill on the court.
Brogdon got hurt tonight.
Brogdon's out. What are we doing?
Yeah, that wasn't a great move, I thought, pushing them back onto the floor after their runs. You get up to what? They were at like 25 to 29 minutes, starters and regulars there. You could have let Noah Vonleh run and some of the guys deep down the bench there. And no Luke tonight. What a disappointment. That's why I came up here, right?
Did you drive him up there?
What a disappointment.
I will say, I like the starting lineup. If we want to pivot to that,
we did talk about it. How there's a trade-off. It's like the 3 guards. Actually, John Duke, who does Celtic stuff live here at CLNS network with Justin Poulin, tweeted that. So apparently, the 3-guard lineup is a top 3 offense in the NBA, and the double big lineup is a top defense in the NBA. It's actually interesting versatility to have if you're willing to go there. And there is a trade-off. The offense is more dynamic when you have more playmakers out there. There's no question about it. We've been clamoring for it for 2 friggin' years, since the days of Tristan freaking Thompson. We're playing Tristan Thompson and Daniel Tice at the same time, Bobby. You know, like, we've been
And
through
they
a
were
lot.
ready to go Luke and Al, it looked like, before the Luke injury. And then they found
No
something
way
else.
were they ever really considering that.
Tristan started opening night, didn't he? Jeez.
He did. No, he started pretty much that whole season as John screamed into the heavens for Rob. That's a Garden Report throwback.
Oh my goodness. I could, from day one, like, what are we doing? But I mean, we were against it last year and they came out of the gate slow and sluggish and things looked off. And then they flipped the switch and then everyone shut up about double big for a while. But we've never really liked it. And I even think this, despite the fact that it was successful, I mean, hugely successful in the regular season, you saw Rob's impact in the playoffs. I still want to separate those guys. When Rob comes back, I don't want to do it. I want to keep those guys separate and have more playmakers on the floor.
Well, that's what I've seen in the preseason. I've been excited with the fluidity of the offense. And you know what I've noticed, and you're going to like this point, John, their guards are almost better screeners than Rob was.
Yeah.
And you see that off
Rob's
ball.
not a great screener.
They know where to be. They're positioning well. They're freeing up Tatum and Brown. And Brown had a huge preseason playing off those guys. They have good sense on where to roll, where to cut. There was a ton of cutting in this preseason, more than I think we've ever seen before in the Tatum era. So they were pretty active offensively and shot well, and
a lot more movement.
Moved the ball great, all the way back to that 41 assists preseason opener.
On a couple of those, like we talked about Derek White kind of being obviously his shooting made that 3-guard lineup look a lot better. But sorry, I didn't want to talk about Horford. But also the movement, a couple of his threes, he wasn't just standing in the corner camped out. He relocated there. He moved, he'd pass and he'd move to an open spot. There was a lot of people moving to spots. It was the offense was a lot less stagnant than it was for large periods of last year. The ball's definitely not sticking to people.
And as much as Joe's talked about, I don't want to change things, I don't want to rock the boat here, he did come into this job with a desire to open up this team's offense a little bit and look at the lineups.
Yeah.
They've run. Ime would not have run the lineups they've been running in the preseason, I don't think.
Right.
And that's sort of the Brad school of thought, right? We kind of thought, Missoula being a Stevens hire, that he'd be more of the Stevens type coaching. And we remember those Stevens years, Crowder at the 4 and small ball and 3 guards and shooting and spacing and pace. It looks like that's back. And yes, the offense is going to bump up from that, but how much do you give up on the defensive end? I'm not a big rebounding guy, but against a team like Toronto, you give up 20-plus offensive rebounds, and this is the kind of result you're going to get here. This is one of those games, I think, where rebounding mattered.
Yeah, you never care about rebounding until you have that game where rebounding is the difference. For the most part, you just kind of live with it. Like, okay, we're not a great rebounding team, but you make up in a lot of different areas. But that game where you're getting just absolutely murdered, you play 22 seconds of really good defense. You get you get a good stop, you force a bad shot, and then they just get a gimme on the.
And that could be Tuesday. That's a big team you're going against Tuesday.
Yeah,
yeah. I mean,
so that happens.
Before you came on, Bobby, we were talking about, like, when the 3-point shot isn't falling, this team's gonna be in trouble. Like, I give them the benefit of the doubt that they're gonna have a handful of games like this where the 3 shots fall,
tonight,
Josue. Huh?
54 3-point attempts tonight.
Right. Exactly. Like, you can't. It's like John made a great point. What Draymond was saying, like this doesn't in the NBA Finals. They're not gonna do this every single night after game 1, and that's exactly what happened.
Game 1 vibes. Yeah,
game 1 vibes for sure.
With White too, yeah.
Not having someone like Robert Williams, and that's a huge hole in the middle. I think someone like Noah Vonleh, look, I don't think these guys need to play 20+ minutes, but they're going to be crucial in the sense of bridging the gap from the starters when they get their rest and trying to hold down the fort, because there's not who's rebounding out there besides him and Grant. I mean, those are your only secondary rebounders.
Yeah,
well, it gives them a little something there.
At the end of the day, for all of the the White hitting his 3-pointer at a clip you don't fully expect, a bunch of guys who you do expect to hit shots were not hitting their shots tonight. Hauser went 1 for 7, and a couple of them were some of the worst looking shot attempts I've ever seen.
Did that
in
one
my
get
life.
blocked that went off the backboard? I couldn't tell.
No idea. I didn't think it did.
Yeah, that was weird.
Tatum again 3 for 10 with another brutal another
Pritchard
Pritchard
brutal
2
shooting
shots
game.
at the buzzer to win it.
He had some big looks and just flat. So
Pritchard 0 for 4. Pritchard again. I guess if you're going to do takeaways from this game and things that are meaningful, they basically played 9 guys. Cornette was not one of them at all, and Pritchard was an afterthought. And again, with a healthy Brogdon, White, and Smart, I just don't see a path for Pritchard.
Yeah, especially with everything we just said about rebounding
getting
and how
minutes.
important that is. Like,
Especially considering
you
how
have to go
small
with
they're
one
going
of
to be.
You got to go with one of the big guys for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not usually that, who is a big man? They got to get somebody. And Derek Favors did become available tonight. But they do. I think it's more about because Rob will come back. That makes them bigger when that happens. But in the meantime, you are kind of small at that 3-4 spot, and not even so much small, but I think
So it's harder to hide Pritchard.
Yeah, and I think the guys who are playing that position aren't used to being on the boards like they need to be right now. Tatum, Brown, they kind of got caught off guard in that first game. I thought they rebounded better in the second game against Toronto, and then again tonight, you put Hauser out there, not a plus rebounder. Grant has not had a rebound at a high level throughout his career, and I think struggles to at times. So Brown and Tatum are the key guys there. I think they got to be crashing there. They got to be keeping guys off. And there were a couple of balls where OG, Tatum were fighting for one, and Barnes was in there fighting with Tatum. They're really going to have to scrap these out. And it's going to take a lot of effort and intensity, I think, for them to compete.
Yeah, it's a team effort
on the boards. Yeah.
They
That's
all
an adjustment. Crash. They're not used to it. They used to letting Rob get 12, just jumping.
How's changing gears a little bit? Well, Bobby, any other takeaways from this game before I navigate us in a different direction?
Nothing crazy. There was some technical stuff. I thought they started switching some more. The lineups they ran, I think, were in an effort to switch a lot more, and there was some cute confusion there. There was some breakdowns. A lot of the new guys, especially, I think, have some catching up to do there. The complaining, of course, we hit on. Hopefully Brogdon's not hurt. But yeah, they're gonna keep it tight. Looks like they're gonna go small. And I do like the starting lineup that they're playing with. Some of these bench units, though, I'm wondering, is Hauser going to survive? I think tonight you really saw Hauser in the flow of an NBA. This was the first real NBA game that they played this preseason, right? That pace, the rotations, the minutes for guys. I think the pace passed him by a little bit there. So I'm interested to see how he adjusts to some regular season positions. Blake, to me, still doesn't look great. Although he's just getting his feet under him. We'll see how that goes. Looks like that backup center job's his right now. Looks like
low-key Blake hater. Hates this signing.
I didn't love the signing. We watched them last year. I hope it goes well for him. But
with Favors being available or whatever, you're like, man, so that they need to take back right now.
I was very interested when the Thunder traded Favors to the Rockets. It seemed like there was a possibility.
We're talking about Blake for a second.
Yeah.
What is Blake?
Oop. It was John who left. I thought it was me. Yeah.
So if I had to guess, I think he's on your side of this whole the signing thing.
What has Blake done so far? Yeah. I think that's what he's going to ask.
Yeah. I mean, look, I don't think Blake's a guy that you have to lean on for 15, 17 minutes, but he's just sort of that guy who can just fill in the blanks when, at the end of the second and third quarter, whether that means someone's in foul trouble, whether you just need someone to sort of slow things down in the sense of just grabbing rebounds, because I just think rebounding is going to be a huge problem for this team, especially on nights when, the shot's not falling and you're looking for, guys from the bench. And I'm not saying Blake can be one of those guys, but in sense of being a defender, can grab rebounds, can run the floor a bit. I don't hate the signing. And then you think about the way he's been off the court and all the things he's had to say and seeing him hanging out with the guys. I think it's good. I think it's all good in that regard. And, maybe there's another option out there, but I don't think it's significantly better, but we'll see. We'll see what it does. What are you going to say, John? You something about Blake?
I was just saying, what does Blake do?
Take charges. That's all he did last year.
Yeah, they'll have a competition going, him and Marcus.
That was a crazy
I didn't love the
stat.
signing, John. I didn't love the
signing.
I mean,
we were joking about it. I don't get it at all. I don't get which minutes are Blake.
Aldridge? You want a LaMarcus?
No, I wasn't big on anything. Come on, Josue. Who do I want out there?
Not you. I was talking about John. Yeah.
If
you don't want Blake, you definitely don't want LaMarcus.
Yeah. I'm looking for Luke minutes. Now, who knows if he's ready to get out there? He has not looked good. he looks like he's still trying to get his feet under him with that ankle injury. That's probably tough for a 7'2" guy.
Bobby pulled up to Montreal looking like Luke's agent. Check you out. The code and everything. He's like, yo, this is a big preseason game, guys. Let's go. Come on.
Come on, let's get the extension done.
Bobby, I don't even think Luke
Put him in,
I don't even think Luke Cornett thinks he's going to play as much as you do. Like, there's nobody.
Luke's looking behind his bench like, oh, shit, Bobby's here.
He's like,
he was suiting up. You think they opened the curtains, John, and it was a diversion? They had him out there with the starters? That could have been, I guess.
Luke Cornett's burner in the chat would be like right now, like, yeah, I don't think Luke's playing. Like, he knows. He knows.
Listen,
he's not.
So on this roster, if they're looking for a backup 5, you're talking about Grant.
They're not. They're just going to go small. There's going to be some games where you're going to need a bigger body. You got to throw him in for a few minutes because you don't have a choice. But they're going to try desperately to not use him. That's he's a.
Would you rather see him or Blake, John?
It's different. Neither. Is that an option?
It is. Once Rob comes back.
Because tonight they didn't play him. No, even tonight. It's not necessary. You have the starting lineup. Then you have Grant. And you have Brogdon, and that's 7. And who else was deeply in that? You're throwing Hauser in that rotation, whether he's fully ready or not.
Big minutes.
Huh?
Al's playing big minutes in that case.
Yeah.
Which I don't know. He has said he's ready for it, and he wants it, and he is going to go back to back.
Grant's playing 30 minutes a night this year until Rob's ready.
If you can outplay Noah, my dude right now, Vonleh, then I'm for it. But I just don't. I don't know. I like Vonleh in that position. That thirst.
I'm all for Vonleh if he can win that out. I think it should be an open competition between all those guys. I don't think there's a huge level of separation between those bigs off the bench, and they will need them some nights. Like, I'm interested to see, are they going to go small and just play their style against Philadelphia? Joe actually got asked that at one point during the preseason. I think Scal asked it, whether he's the kind of coach who's going to adjust away from what he's starting games with if he sees things going the wrong way. And he said he's willing to do that. So are you getting killed on the boards early on Tuesday and all of a sudden you need a big off that bench, try to go double big? I'm interested to see if that's a possibility for this group because they really are thin in that front court right now with size at least.
Did anyone ask him about the Tatum injection? Did anyone say what his thoughts on it?
Joe didn't have too much to say about it. Grant gave the blow-by-blow, like I said, of what happened each step of the way there. And again, they shrugged it off, but wasn't Ime talking all last year like that was a real issue for this group and they can't do it? And is there anyone there to say that now to these guys? Because
Ime was screaming at his TV today.
Had Tatum been ejected before? Was that his first?
I'm seeing that it's his first, but I'm not sure. I think so.
I couldn't remember another one. So that was rare for him. I guess the one thing you can say is that ball bounce that he does has always been a technical, and he already had one. So that was going to be a second one for him in that case. Now, if he was Draymond, he could have bounced it up to the roof and jumped on a guy.
I know everyone's against the Celtics.
Back down, like
anti-Celtics bias.
I'm just saying, no, just Draymond. Draymond in that case, he doesn't even get a suspension for punching a guy.
No, Tatum's not getting ejected in the finals either. It's not, no ref is gonna.
Hey, how about Draymond
assaulted someone. Tatum is not getting a second tech, no matter how many ball bounces or anything in a playoffs.
John, how about this for conspiracy theory? Joe saw Tatum complain a little bit, didn't want to say anything. He went over to the ref and said, "Hey, kick Tatum out."
Tee this guy up.
How would that be for coaching?
Be awesome.
That's next level.
I respect it. I love that.
That'd be awesome. Toss him.
That would be something. I should have asked Joe that. You tell him to kick him out.
Yeah, that would have been. That would have given you a lot of credibility.
Yeah.
Did you plan that?
Yeah, but with his sense of humor, I think he would have liked it. He's got a.
You think so?
He might have.
Yeah, he might have, but it's risky.
I don't know. It's too bad. It's too bad it happened.
Fun game for the
fun game. We didn't even talk about Grant Zioning his shoe, which was a spectacle. You don't see that very often. Somebody's shoe blowing apart and Tatum getting ejected. That's a pretty eventful preseason game.
Full house. These tickets are going for like 150 here.
I mean,
Canada showed up.
This was Toronto's Super Bowl here, winning this preseason game against the Celtics.
I love it.
Congrats, guys.
Let's get these two teams in the playoffs again.
I hope that there's a first round matchup with the Celtics because that would be fun.
Every year. We need it. We were rooting for it last year for a bunch of different reasons.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I hope that happens.
A couple other things from this game I wanted to talk about. This makes me nervous.
A little bit.
I don't believe anything they ever say regarding injuries. A precautionary injury is never a precautionary injury. Malcolm Brogdon is a guy you're very, very, very worried about on the injury front. I hate that something was bothering him enough to sit the second half. Precautionary or not, something happened. Whatever it is. What are we saying?
Swelling,
Leg,
something,
hamstring, who knows what? It's something. Never a great thing. So I don't know if anybody talked about this, Bobby. I saw Joe said precautionary.
Yeah, that's all that was said on it.
I don't believe
I
it.
did see him.
I don't believe you.
I did see earlier in the preseason
Bobby
him
too bright,
kind
the
of
mic. I
stretch.
don't believe it.
I don't believe
I don't
you.
know if it was the same leg, but I do remember him early in the preseason kind of stretching out his leg, and it was looking a little stiff on him at one point. Last year wasn't the issue, the Achilles, the whole second half of the season. I got to line all that up leg-wise, and does that all line up on one leg? But that's the lower body issues for him have been the issues: ankle, heel, hip.
Lower body is half your body. That's a lot of stuff to be hurt. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a whole half of your body. If you're
And
having
this is
lower
the
body
guy.
problems, that's not great.
We talk about playing small. You need this guy, 6'6",
You
wing
need it.
size, wing
Yeah.
versatility with the shooting and the defense. You're not going to be able to connect these lineups without him, especially without Rob out there. Those are the two glue guys for lineups that you can't do without both of them at the same time. You can have one out, as they do right now, but both of these guys, they're in a bad spot.
Yeah, but just the way he leads the offense too. I mean, like that's just someone you're gonna have to rely on. I mean, again, of course, we're talking if this team's gonna go back to where they were again. You know, the NBA Finals. Brogdon's a big part of that. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. You know, just like moving forward, not just with this, but just if any sort of precautionary, exits, or we find out he's not playing, second nights of back-to-backs and stuff. People are gonna have to remember that they have the big picture in mind. And you want to preserve him because he's never gone that far in the playoffs. So we've never. This is sort of uncharted waters for him. So they had to tread lightly here with him.
It's preseason game 3. You're already dinged up at this point. I'm not really,
well, that's why you don't play the second half, John. All right.
Looking forward to the playoffs. I mean, whether it's preseason game 3 or regular season game 2, you don't want to see somebody already having some issues here, particularly someone who's been, kind of a big injury concern. The second thing, and Bobby wanted to talk about it as well, is the Grant extension. Recent report, the Celtics and Grant Williams unlikely to reach an extension before the beginning of their regular season. Williams seeking 13 to 17 million annually. I guess this is where we placed him based off of what you think the market. My thought was 12 to 14, which I think is still a shit ton of money. But if you value him, you overpay a little. I don't know if you're going to 17, 18 million dollars for Grant. I just don't know.
Didn't that kind of open our eyes? I think it was earlier in the summer when Fisher put out that $20 million figure, and we were like, huh? And you were thinking about this extension going into the summer, and you were like, all right.
But that's what I said is whatever number he might have in his mind to the Celtics, I think he's a $10 to $12 million player, and that's where they're comfortable going. And if he's going over that, if they're at a stalemate, that means they can't bridge their gap, which means whatever he's asking for is a good bit over where the Celtics are where the Celtics have him slotted in terms of what they think he's worth.
I don't think they're close.
They might have him at 8 to 10, and he's saying what? And so you got a problem here. You're not talking about overpaying a little. You're talking about possibly doubling what you think he's worth. That's a line you don't probably cross. If they're far apart enough to not be able to bridge the gap from where Grant is and where they are, they're not getting this done.
Yeah, but if you're Grant, you look at the situation that they're in right now in the front court. You're like, wait, if Rob isn't healthy throughout the course of this season, all of a sudden I'm a lot more valuable than I was 1 year ago.
He might become a starter.
But I'm rolling the dice
because he also made a stride last season. I thought it was a significant stride. And I can see him betting on himself. And look, between 13 and 17 million, I'm not shocked at it. Al's not getting much younger. Obviously, he's looking ahead a couple of years from now. Rob, we don't know what his situation is going to be like, whether this is going to be a lingering injury or so. Like, he could be getting this is starters money, right? And that could be the future for Grant. But we have to wait.
Do you believe a team out there is coming at Grant in the offseason with a 4-year, $80 million offer sheet?
I could see
I'm
it.
not saying over.
I do not. I think that's insanity to spend
What
that
if he
kind of
comes out in
money.
the playoffs again, John, and guards Giannis and Durant again?
I don't think that you're
He's betting on
paying
himself
20.
right now,
I don't
John.
think you pay $20 million for that.
Detroit's got it. Yeah, some of these bad teams.
I think as soon as you give that money to Grant
defender.
Williams, you're immediately trying to figure out how to trade that contract. That's what I think happened.
Well, that's the worry here for the Celtics, right? So I think we all look at it at this point and say 9-10. We even kind of looked at that.
I said 12,
like,
maybe.
Plus,
yeah,
Al's contract's almost done. So, he's looking at things that way.
That's the other factor, Josue, but we'll get to that in a second. On Grant, you're talking about a guy who's a pseudo starter for you right now, who's shooting 40% from three, who defends all these different positions. He has a lot of leverage.
He's not a pseudo starter. He's your 7th best player. Your 7th best player is going to make $18 million, $16, $17 million.
It's out there this time. So that's the tricky thing. A lot of teams have money. A lot of teams have to use it. I got to actually do the math out here. But, Jared's article, where I think that was where you got that 13-17 there, it does map out that money is out there next summer. And whether it's Detroit, whether it's some of these other teams, they're going to be able to throw an offer sheet. And if it does go that high, you are in a tough spot.
If you had drafted better, you wouldn't even be thinking about signing Grant to this extension right now. The problem is they have nothing coming behind it. If you had drafted better and you had a couple of young players that you had to pay in a year or two, you would just be like, goodbye, thank you. Right. You can play for us. You do what you did with Marcus Smart the first go around. Sorry, we're not going to give you the money you want. And then seeing that nobody else was going to give it to him either, then he had to sign the deal that they were willing to give him. And I think Marcus Smart was better and more valuable to the Celtics at that point than Grant Williams is now. And that's what they did with him. They're like, I know you do all of these things and you're a defensive guy, but I'm just not giving you the money you think you're worth. And if somebody else wants to do it, good luck. And I think that's what they'll be with Grant.
Playoff performances build your stock up, and I know he wasn't great in the NBA Finals, but I mean, look, from what he did from behind the arc, being probably the best 3-point shooter. Well, Al lit things up in the postseason, but overall throughout the season, it was Grant who was more consistent from behind the arc. And you look at he's the 3rd most important big man on this team. One of your better 3-point shooters. He's getting older. He's going into his prime years. I mean, I get it. It makes sense. He knows that the Celtics are in a tough spot here, and there's a lot of what ifs. So he's betting on himself.
You're paying starters money to a rotation player. Okay, it's a lot of money.
That might not be the case this summer though, or next summer, John. I think that's how he's looking at this thing. He's not looking at like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm getting paid for what I did in the past. It's also, look, I'm betting on myself that I'm going to build my stock up, and if you don't re-sign me, you're going to have to match one of these other offers that are going to be out there this upcoming summer.
You're being leveraged here, John, because you don't have picks.
Right.
Horford's a free agent too, so you're weighing both of those at the same time. You don't have that front court depth behind Rob, and Rob's hurt quite a bit. I mean, just stack up all these different leverages Grant has, plus money on the market. Like, you can count out 4 or 5 different pieces of leverage that Grant has. I do think it's in both their best interests to not do an extension, though. If you're Grant, you go to the market.
I'll be right back.
If you're Grant, Josue, you go to the market where there's all that money. If you're the Celtics, you have one good year of Grant, right? 2 years ago, people in our chat were saying kick Grant off the team. So which one of those years is the real Grant? I think you go into this year, you find that out. You go to the market because you have restricted free agent rights, right? So you can match any deal that he gets out there.
Yeah.
I don't think and Grant doesn't seem upset about not getting extension either. Every time we've asked him, he said, I don't worry about it. Now, the one thing I'm worried about,
to say that, though. I'll let my agent take care of that, but he's looking at his phone and stuff. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So here's the one thing I'm worried about, though, from this preseason that we've watched with Grant: these lefty layups, these dribble drives into the paint.
Yeah, he's trying to add stuff to his bag. Yeah.
What's that all about? Is that helping out the team, adding layers to your game?
He's trying to add stuff to his bag. He's trying to add, like, look, I'm not just go in the corner and I'll find you for a 3 guy. He's trying to put the ball on the floor and set shots, and shots off the dribble, and those side steps, and then get the guy flies by.
This is Grant's chance, Josue.
he's trying to show he's got other tricks in his bag, and I think he's been working on that stuff throughout the summer.
He's still just okay, guys.
And what would Ime have said?
We gotta be realistic. He's
no one's calling him great. No one's calling
just
him
okay.
No, but John, we're talking about the fact that he's doing all these different things in the preseason. What does that say? Like, he's trying to round out his game. He's trying to push that scoring total up. And listen, I'm sure some of it's to help the team and be a more versatile player. But I don't think it's a coincidence that, you're going into this season with your contract year and you're trying to expand your game offensively. And he has done a lot of things this preseason that we haven't seen him do before. Lefty layup, dribble drives, trying to create on the move.
Package him for Draymond.
Ooh.
Yo. I mean, if the price tag wasn't so high, you think Tatum wouldn't like that idea?
Package him for Draymond. Let's get him over here.
I like Grant.
We know you do, Bobby. We know you do.
He's like, don't give me no aging Draymond.
No, but here's the thing, and this is what we were saying when you left
Grant.
Yeah. There's no urgency for either side to do this now, right? If you're the Celtics, wait. If you're Grant, go to that market with all that money. You have the restricted rights here. I don't think there's any reason for either side to do an extension now.
Someone goes.
I mean, no, there is for the Celtics. If you want to keep him and you're worried the price goes up. So,
but are they getting a bargain deal here?
There's more only if you get the bargain deal. There's more. You run the risk if you're the Celtics and you want him and you're trying to play the 2 million, 3 million game. You could risk it going in the wrong direction. It's what you did with Rob. You signed him to the extension before. What would Rob have gotten on the open market without his offseason surgeries and this and that? Way more than what he got from the Celtics. I mean, Rob's value would have doubled. I mean, close to.
That would have been interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
sure.
But you identify that I really want this guy, so I'm just going to lock it up now, whatever it takes. If Grant is that guy in their eyes, you do overpay a little bit because you don't want it to go too far. Because you want it. Ultimately you're going to come to a deal. But if you're not sure you want him, or you really are pretty sure you really only want him at a certain price, and you know what, I'd rather spend that money elsewhere if I can, then you don't. So I don't know if they feel he's indispensable. I don't know that he is either. I think he's fine.
Yeah, but you also have to remember too. It's nothing. That's what I wanted to bring up. If you're Grant's agent, you're like, let's say the Celtics are trying to go out and replace Grant this season via trade. Like, they don't have a whole lot of pieces in it. And we talked about this. Oh, actually, we kind of talked about it a little bit. We were talking about Derek White earlier, John. When we said how, the Celtics want, if you're Derek White, you want to make this work. And if you're the Celtics, you do too, because, the what you gave up in that first round pick, and, he hasn't even been here for a year, and it would be a disaster if he was unable to, carve out a significant role in this team, especially at this point in this, midway through the season. If he's unable to sort of stick or whatever, if you're Grant's representation, you're like, man, you guys will be in a really tough spot because you can't replace him. And if you do, you're not going to get the same sort of production. And bringing in someone and taking a risk on somebody who's, most likely hasn't been in the league or has been trying to, cling on to one of these teams. So I think, again, that plays a part in this as well. So that has to do with that asking price, in my opinion. The fact that Rob is banged up, the fact that in a couple of years, someone's going to have to sort of replace Al in that starting lineup. And if you're his agent, you're saying this is Grant. He's the guy. He's got a great relationship with Jayson Tatum. They hang out outside of. Yeah, the book just fell off, and that scared the heck out of me.
You don't read books.
They have a great relationship off the court. You want to obviously make Tatum happy, and if he fits, he's a good team guy. So all that they're taking into consideration. If you're Grant's agent,
I'm all set.
So you'll let him go, John?
No, I just wouldn't. I would set my price and what I think he's worth, and beyond that, I just wouldn't go there.
It's all going to be interchanged with Horford. If you can get Horford back on a minimum, which is going to be interesting, actually. I don't think that gets talked about enough, his free agency coming up. You might be able to shuffle more of that money over to Grant, right? Because you're taking $30 million off the books in Horford, transferring that to possibly a minimum or mid-level deal, and then you can kick back extra money over to Grant and pretty much have the same salary as a team, unless you're looking to add. The Gallinari thing's tricky too. He's coming back at $6 million or whatever it is after the ACL injury because they gave that second year. So they're going to have some shuffling to do in the front court this offseason for sure. And then Rob's injury history makes it all the more tricky. Luckily, you have him locked up at the number you do, as you said.
I'd love to see Al come back on a minimum deal. I mean, look, I'm not trying to say like,
What if he has a
Al's
great
gonna
year though, Josue? He might go to the market again and say 10 million, 15 million. Like, why not? Go get one more big contract.
Yeah, he might. That'd be
Depends
wild.
how he does this year.
Al made
How'd
a
he
whole
look
lot
to you
of,
guys tonight?
made a whole lot of money. He looked
Who?
good. Al,
Yeah.
Yeah,
He
he's
looked good.
fine. He looked
Yeah.
like Al. You know who doesn't look awesome?
Who?
Who am I going to say?
It could be a lot of people. Who knows?
Who is Marcus Smart?
Yeah.
Knew it.
So
Yeah, he hasn't been
he
great.
was talking about he's been talking about bumps and bruises the whole preseason, going back to that ankle thing when we interviewed him. And
Doesn't look great to me. I
working
don't know
with
what
the
it
quad.
is. Something's
He
off.
was getting
Doesn't
he was
look
getting
right.
stretched out pregame for a long time, like
Yeah.
longer than guys usually are. So I wonder physically how he's holding up. I talked to him in the locker room pregame. I didn't get into the health stuff, but he has been complaining about some stuff. And then he took that spill. Like he was grimacing at one point. That might have been the quad, right? At one point that he's dealt with for years there. So I wonder what kind of shape he's in physically right now.
The quad, or as my wife would call it, the Kwame.
You think that's what it is, John? Is it physical when you're looking at him?
He looks old and slow, but it might be an injury. He just looks off right now. He doesn't look like himself.
Yeah, he
That's
good
happened before,
follow-up
though.
for over the
Beginning
weekend.
of the season. I mean, that doesn't happen every year.
Marcus also is someone who tends to ramp up. What's interesting with Marcus is he's come into camp not in like peak physical shape, and I don't know what he is this year, what you think, and then you see as the season goes on,
John, right? Because they played till late June.
Yeah,
if you got out
so
of
it could
shape,
be physical, and sometimes he kind of plays his way into shape as the season goes on, and he starts to look better as it gets into it. He just looks a little off to me right now. I don't know if you guys picked up on it.
I think it's physical. If you got out of shape in the month and a half that they were off there, that would be bad. I don't.
It happens. He's been a couple times he came in. I remember he came in last year, and I was like, he looks overweight, and then he kind of always leans up. He didn't look good, beginning of last year either. He was terrible. So we'll see what that is, but I don't know if you guys saw that. Overall, preseason's over. Offense looks good. Defense isn't as good right now, but it's you're not playing balls out defense in the preseason, so I don't think it's a fair judge. But I do like the way that the offense is trending right now. In terms of,
I'm glad they got to play this team too, right? Is there a better test
the
you
length
gotten than Toronto?
Yeah, it's good.
And this was the Toronto I was expecting to see in Boston. That was a lackluster effort from the Raptors in that game until late.
That was a blowout that they gave back to Toronto. But I mean, Celtics blew their doors off there. So we'll see. Really interesting coming up with the Philly. Like I said, we're gonna have a preview on Monday. We're gonna throw out some bold predictions. That's always fun. See how many of them hit. We're back, and then the opener on Tuesday. So season's ready to ramp up, guys. We're pretty psyched about it, and psyched to have everybody here on board.
You guys remember when I crushed it with the bold predictions last year?
Yeah, you did. Once again, want to tell everybody about Athletic Greens, our sponsor, athleticgreens.com/garden. Free 1-year supply, vitamin D, 5 free travel packs of this terrific supplement here. 75 vitamins and minerals all packed into one little scoop. You pour it into some water, and that's it. All of your health needs are done for the day. You don't have to go shopping for a million different pills and supplements. Just get it all in one place here, athleticgreens.com. It's basically $3 a day to take care of your health. We will also send you, again, athleticgreens.com/garden for the deal you see on the screen and this t-shirt. Send me your deets and I will get it out to you. I promise. As soon as we can. So please support our sponsors. It obviously helps us a great deal when you do. It is important to us. It allows us to keep bringing this content. If you're at all interested in it, at least check it out. I know a lot of people have, and a lot of people have purchased it, and a lot of people really like it. So check it out for us if you can. Once again, Celtics lose their preseason final 137-134. Jayson Tatum was not around to see the end of this one, as he got 3 technical fouls essentially and got tossed from the game. Couple injury things possibly to watch out for. Marcus Smart looked a little banged up throughout the game and then kind of hobbled a little bit when he slipped on a wet spot. Malcolm Brogdon missed the second half of the game for precautionary reasons. We'll see what's up with that. We'll have some updates as the team kind of practices over the next couple of days heading into Monday's game. You can follow Bobby Manning and all of his updates on clnsmedia.com. Check out the website for written content and check out our YouTube channel, Celtics All Access, for all of our post-game materials. Bobby will have a report from the game as well as all of the post-game sound as well. So that's all going to be updated there. In addition to a slew of all of our terrific Celtics podcasts, which will be, I'm sure, doing season previews as in the coming days here as well. So that's it. Josue Pavon, Bobby Manning up in Canada, holding it down for
Good
CLNS
to be
Media.
here.
Yes. Bobby's going to defect.
What an atmosphere. Loved it.
I love it up there. Great. I love Montreal. I love Toronto. I love Quebec. Vancouver, one of my favorite. I love Vancouver. I loves me some Canada. So
damn, you really do. You went to all those places?
I've been to all those places. I love it.
Jesus, dude, loves Canada. You never mentioned it. You love Canada.
I do.
Did you?
One of my favorite professional experiences was covering the Bruins Stanley Cup against Vancouver. Yeah. That was so friggin' fun.
Oh yeah, you did. Yeah, you mentioned that.
That was a ton of fun. Anyway, thanks guys for hanging out with us for the preseason. As we said, things really kick off starting Monday and then Tuesday with the first game. So we're psyched to have you all back. For the first of 82 and then well beyond. So that's going to wrap it up. Good night, everybody.